3 words. 3 words, 1 question. That's all it takes for you to know exactly who I'm talking about. How you doing? If this catchphrase could be so recognizable, what went wrong with Enzo and Cass? Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy came together in NXT after losing to Mason Ryan in both of their debut matches. Now, calling themselves the realest guys in the room, Enzo and Cass were there in NXT at the perfect time. This was the era of NXT that I believe made NXT what it is today. This was right after the WWE Network came out and NXT was running super hot. You see, the crowd at Full Sail really got behind the superstars they saw on a regular basis and grew to love them. It was almost like a home ball game when the NXT was there. Enzo and Cass became their home team. Enzo Amore really helped out the team with his superior mic skills and his unique look. He really set himself apart when he started changing his hairstyle. With this hairstyle change came a manager named Carmella. You may now know her as the SmackDown Women's Champion. I'd say she did okay for herself. With Big Cass, the powerhouse of the team, Enzo Amore, the mouthpiece of the team, and Carmella, the fabulous manager, there was no more over team than them. Every night, Enzo would come out and say,
"My name is Enzo Amore, and I am a certified G and a bona fide stud, and you can't teach that." And this right here, this is Big Cass, and he's 7 foot tall, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, realest guys in the room, how you doing?
This, believe it or not, was recited by every single fan in attendance. This is something you tell people why you love wrestling. The entrance, the fan interaction, the great wrestling matches, they had it all, and they were red hot. It was only a matter of time before they came up to the main roster. When they did, it was the same old NXT to main roster story. The disappointment. They did decent as a team for a while, but could never capture the same magic at NXT. One of the main problems was the crowd. The Full Sail crowd is almost like an ECW type crowd. They have their favorites, they cheer them, and they cheer them until they can't cheer anymore. Take that to the main roster shows, and you get a different type of crowd. Eventually, in 2017, WWE decided to split Enzo and Cass. Backstage, Enzo was laid out and Cass was going to find out who the attacker was. Surprise, surprise, it was Cass. Cass claimed that Enzo was holding him back, and the two would go on to have a feud for the duration of the summer until Enzo would go to 205 Live and Cass would have a singles run on SmackDown. Enzo did, however, have success in 205 Live, becoming a 2-time Cruiserweight champion. However, a scandal led to his release, and he was the Cruiserweight champion at the time. In January of 2018, Enzo was fired from WWE due to sexual harassment case where he was accused of rape. The accusations went back to October 2017. WWE was livid. How could one of their superstars have an ongoing case involving sexual harassment and not tell them? Enzo says there was never a case. Charges were never pressed. He never knew this was going on until it was made public. WWE had no choice but to fire him. This was right during the Me Too movement. This was a huge national campaign about women coming forward about sexual harassment. Tons of celebrities were accused and found guilty of this. Whether the Enzo allegations were true or not, WWE had no choice but to let him go, because keeping him around made WWE look guilty. Following his release, Enzo continued to deny the allegations and even paid his own lawyer to seek truth and justice. Finally, on May of 2018, the Phoenix Police Department ceased their investigation because of insufficient evidence. Enzo was never found guilty. Cass? It's a different story. Cass had gotten a big singles push and put into a program with Daniel Bryan. Cass upset WWE officials after a segment on WWE SmackDown where the 7-footer beat up a little person. According to sources, however, it didn't play out exactly as scripted. Cass was directed to be done with the attack after hitting the impersonator with a big boot, but he asked if he could take it further with a beatdown. Backstage officials said no, and Cass felt so strongly about it, he took up the issue with Vince McMahon, who also shot the idea down. When the segment did happen in the ring, Cass went against what he was told and mounted the little person, throwing punches and punches and punches. This put Cass in hot water with WWE. Now, there is a rumor that Cass got into a fight with his ex-girlfriend Carmella backstage, and this ultimately led to his release, but none of that was confirmed. According to Sports Illustrated, Cass's release was due to behavioral issues, including public intoxication during a WWE tour and disobeying those orders from Vince McMahon. Now, Cass has been very quiet since he's been released and hasn't said much. However, upon the release of Enzo Amore, he's been very vocal. He even went down citing that it is a bigger loss to WWE than it is to him. Enzo claims that Triple H never really liked him. He always had a big mouth, and if he thought that things should go a certain way, he would bring them up to Vince McMahon himself. Enzo was a guy who did things his way and fought tooth and nail to the end. He wanted to change the world, and WWE corporate laughed at him. Enzo and Cass were two of the most polarizing figures in NXT and WWE. Together as a team, I don't think there was any other team more popular than them on the NXT roster. They didn't even win the NXT Tag Team titles, and they were the 2015 NXT Tag Team of the Year. Also in 2017, Cass was number 94 on the PWA Top 500 Wrestlers of the Year. Enzo was number 110. This should show you something about the duo. Together in NXT, they created magic. They were a team like no other. They did things differently, and it worked. If anything, you have to commend them for believing in themselves and sticking up for the ideas that they thought were right. Enzo and Cass may no longer be in the WWE, but you bet your ass I'll always remember the entire catchphrase of the realest guys in the room. How you doing?